You've been exhausted all day, genuinely, bone-tiredly exhausted. Eyes heavy in meetings, brain foggy by noon, desperately looking forward to the moment you can finally lie down and sleep. Then 11 p.m. hits, and you're not tired anymore. You're lying there, strangely alert, scrolling your phone, running through tomorrow's to-do list, watching the clock tick past midnight. And by the time you finally do fall asleep, you've stolen an hour or two from the morning. You'll wake up groggy, and the whole cycle starts again. Or maybe your version looks different. Maybe you sleep fine, technically, but you wake up feeling like you didn't sleep at all. Or you crash hard every afternoon around 2 or 3, needing caffeine just to function through the second half of the day. Or you feel sharp in the morning, fog sets in by midday, and you can't figure out why your energy is so inconsistent. Here's what's actually happening. Your sleep quality, your alertness, your mental clarity, none of it is random. All of it is governed by two biological systems running in parallel every hour of every day. And once you understand how those two systems work and what they need from you, the confusion disappears. The foggy mornings, the afternoon crashes, the wired at midnight problem. All of it has a clear biological explanation and a clear fix. That's exactly what this video is about. Not vague advice about reducing stress and going to bed earlier. The actual science, explained simply, and the specific tools that work directly with your biology to give you better sleep and sharper wakefulness at the same time. Let's start with the foundation. Your sleep and wakefulness are governed by two systems working together. Think of them as two dials that your body is constantly adjusting. When both are properly calibrated and in sync, you feel alert when you should be alert and sleepy when you should be sleepy. When they're out of sync, you get the chaos most people are used to: unpredictable energy, poor sleep, that groggy, half-alive feeling in the morning. The first system is called the homeostatic sleep drive. The second is your circadian rhythm. Understanding how each of these works and how they interact is the difference between managing your sleep and actually mastering it. The homeostatic sleep drive is powered by a molecule called adenosine. Here's how it works. Every hour you're awake, adenosine accumulates in your brain and body. It builds steadily, a kind of chemical pressure that grows heavier the longer you stay awake. After 10, 12, 16 hours of wakefulness, that pressure is high and your brain is pushing hard for sleep. After a full night of restorative sleep, adenosine levels drop back to baseline. You wake up feeling refreshed because the pressure has been cleared. That pressure is what makes sleep feel earned, and it's what makes deep, restorative sleep possible. Now here's where most people are unknowingly working against themselves. Caffeine is an adenosine antagonist. It doesn't reduce adenosine, it doesn't clear it, it simply binds to the same receptors in your brain that adenosine would occupy, blocking the signal. While caffeine is active, you can't feel the sleep pressure, even though the adenosine is still building behind the scenes. This is why the afternoon coffee works, and it's exactly why it costs you later. Caffeine has a half-life of roughly 5 to 6 hours. That means half of the caffeine in a 3 p.m. coffee is still active at 9 p.m. By the time you go to bed, it may still be partially blocking your adenosine receptors, meaning your brain cannot fully register the sleep pressure it has accumulated. You fall asleep, but you spend less time in deep, slow-wave sleep. You wake up less restored. And because your adenosine wasn't fully cleared overnight, you start the next day already behind, which makes you reach for caffeine earlier, which blocks adenosine again, which reduces sleep quality again. Most people think their caffeine habit is neutral. It isn't. The practical fix is simple but requires discipline. Stop consuming caffeine at least 8 to 10 hours before your intended sleep time. If you're sensitive or dealing with poor sleep quality, pushing that cutoff even earlier, to noon or 1 p.m., can make a noticeable difference within a few days. And here's the counterintuitive corollary to this. You actually want adenosine to build. That pressure is what drives deep, restorative sleep. Mental and physical activity during the day accelerates the buildup. A sedentary day of low stimulation produces weaker sleep pressure, lighter sleep, and less restoration. In a very real sense, earning your tiredness during the day is part of how you earn your sleep quality at night. The second system, your circadian rhythm, is your internal 24-hour biological clock. Its master controller is a tiny cluster of neurons in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. The SCN coordinates an enormous range of biological processes: hormone release, body temperature, metabolism, immune function, even gene expression in individual cells. It's not just a sleep-wake timer, it's a whole-body synchronization system. And it is calibrated almost entirely by one input: light. Every morning, specialized cells in your retina, cells containing a photopigment called melanopsin, detect the specific quality of natural light and send a direct signal to your SCN. That signal does several things simultaneously. It triggers a pulse of cortisol and adrenaline, providing the hormonal fuel for morning alertness. It suppresses any residual melatonin from the night. And it starts a timer, roughly 12 to 16 hours, at the end of which your body will release melatonin again to prepare you for sleep. This is the mechanism that connects what happens in the morning to how well you sleep at night. Morning light doesn't just help you feel awake, it actively sets the clock that determines when your body will be ready to sleep many hours later. When this signal is missing, when you wake up and stay indoors under dim artificial lighting, which can be 10 to 50 times weaker than outdoor light, the clock gets an ambiguous message. Melatonin lingers longer than it should. Cortisol doesn't peak cleanly. The whole day's hormonal rhythm starts on uncertain footing. And by evening, instead of a strong, well-timed melatonin rise, you get a delayed or blunted signal, which is why you end up lying awake at 11 p.m. feeling more alert than you did at 4 in the afternoon. That late-night second wind? That's not insomnia. That's a mistimed circadian clock. Given everything we just covered, the single highest impact habit for improving both your sleep and your daytime alertness is this: get outside into natural light within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. Not through a window, not from indoor lighting. Outside. For 5 to 10 minutes on a clear day, 10 to 30 minutes when it's cloudy or overcast. Just enough to give your melanopsin cells the signal they need to properly anchor your clock for the day. You don't need to stare at the sky. You don't need to stand in direct sunlight. Just get outside, let your eyes receive ambient outdoor light naturally, and let the system do what it's designed to do. The downstream effects of this one habit compound quickly. Within a few days of consistent morning light exposure, the cortisol awakening response sharpens. You feel more alert more quickly after waking. Melatonin onset in the evening becomes more reliable. You feel genuinely tired at a reasonable hour. Sleep latency drops. Sleep depth improves. Morning grogginess decreases. All from 10 minutes outside in the morning, without any supplement, without any app, without spending $1. Now, there's an evening counterpart to this that most people miss entirely. Viewing low-angle sunlight in the late afternoon or around sunset, even just 2 to 5 minutes, has a measurable buffering effect against the disruption of artificial light later in the evening. Here's why this matters. Your retina's sensitivity to light changes over the course of the day. In the evening, as darkness falls, your eyes become significantly more sensitive to light. This means the same amount of artificial light from your phone or overhead bulbs has a much stronger suppressive effect on melatonin at 10 p.m. than it would at noon. Viewing the natural, low-angle light of late afternoon tells your visual system, evening is coming. This produces a calibrating effect that makes your melatonin system somewhat more resilient to the artificial light you'll encounter later. It's not a free pass to stare at bright screens until midnight, but it's a meaningful additional layer that works synergistically with the morning light habit. And this connects directly to what you do after dark. After roughly 8 p.m., your brain's melatonin system becomes increasingly sensitive to light. Bright overhead lighting, screens at full brightness, LED bulbs, all of these send a strong, it's still daytime signal to your SCN during a period when your biology is actively trying to prepare you for sleep. The window between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. is particularly critical. Bright light during these hours doesn't just suppress melatonin in the moment, it increases retinal sensitivity, suppresses dopamine via a pathway in the brain called the habenula, and actively impairs the learning and mood-regulating processes that are supposed to happen during sleep. Studies on adolescents using light during sleep found measurable negative effects on mood and cognitive performance the following day. This is not a minor inconvenience. This is a direct biological interference with systems that affect how you feel, think, and function. The practical protocol. After 8 p.m., dim your home lighting significantly. Use warm, low-level lamps rather than bright overhead lights. Reduce screen brightness or use warm color modes. And if you're using screens close to bedtime, amber-tinted blue light-blocking glasses provide genuine melatonin protection. Not complete, but meaningful. The goal isn't perfect darkness from sunset. It's a gradual dimming that mirrors what the natural world was doing for the entirety of human history before artificial light. Your melatonin system was designed for that pattern. It still expects it. Given that the circadian clock governs so much, consistency of timing matters enormously. Wake up at the same time every day, including weekends, including the morning after a poor night's sleep. This single commitment, more than any supplement, any sleep aid, any mattress upgrade, is what keeps your adenosine and circadian systems synchronized. A consistent wake time anchors environments downstream. Cortisol peaks reliably. Adenosine builds from a consistent baseline. Melatonin rises at a predictable hour. Sleep becomes something your body knows how to do at the right time. And there's something equally important on the other end of this. When you feel the first genuine wave of sleepiness in the evening, don't push through it. That wave is your adenosine and melatonin systems converging at exactly the right moment. If you ignore it, Push through to finish one more thing, watch one more episode, get one more thing done, that window can pass. Your body generates a compensatory alertness response, and you find yourself strangely awake again at midnight. Sound familiar? Now you know exactly why. Go to bed at that first signal, not an hour later. Here's something most people don't think about. Your body temperature follows its own circadian arc, rising gradually through the day, peaking in the late afternoon, and then dropping as the evening approaches. That temperature drop is not just a byproduct of sleep. It is one of the primary physiological triggers for sleep onset. A warm bedroom fights this process. A cool bedroom supports it. The ideal sleep environment sits somewhere around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, cooler than most people keep their rooms. But there's a clever way to accelerate the temperature drop your body needs. Warm up first. A warm bath or shower in the evening causes blood vessels to dilate and release heat, producing a rapid core temperature drop afterward. The contrast, warming the surface, cooling the core, mimics and accelerates the natural pre-sleep thermal shift. This is the biological mechanism behind why a warm bath before bed genuinely helps you fall asleep faster. Not just relaxation, thermoregulation. On the morning side, brief cold exposure, a cold shower, cold water on the face, even just stepping outside into cool air, activates a small cortisol and adrenaline response that advances your circadian clock and sharpens early alertness. Combined with morning sunlight, it's one of the most effective ways to feel genuinely awake within minutes of getting up. There's a practice that might be the most underused tool in this entire conversation, and it goes by the name non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR. NSDR refers to any deliberate practice of conscious relaxation that significantly reduces physiological arousal without producing full sleep. Yoga Nidra is the most studied version. Certain forms of meditation and guided relaxation also qualify. Here's what makes it genuinely remarkable. Studies on Yoga Nidra and similar practices show that even 10 to 20 minutes can restore alertness, improve focus, and support memory consolidation in ways that partially overlap with the benefits of actual sleep. It discharges some of the adenosine that's been building, reduces cortisol, and shifts the nervous system toward parasympathetic activity, the biological state associated with rest and recovery. For practical purposes, this means several things. If you slept poorly the night before, a 20-minute NSDR session in the early afternoon can meaningfully recover some of the cognitive and physical capacity that was lost. If you want to consolidate something you've just learned, NSDR done immediately after learning significantly improves retention. And if you lie down at night and can't sleep, instead of lying there frustrated, which creates anxiety around bedtime that compounds over time, doing an NSDR practice is a far better use of those minutes than staring at the ceiling. There are free Yoga Nidra audio scripts widely available. The practice involves lying still in a comfortable position while following a guided body scan that systematically relaxes the nervous system. Most people find it deeply restorative, even without actually falling asleep. And unlike napping, it doesn't produce significant sleep inertia, that heavy, disoriented feeling you sometimes get after waking from an unplanned afternoon sleep. Speaking of napping, there's a right version and several wrong versions. A short nap of 20 to 30 minutes in the early afternoon can reduce adenosine, sharpen focus, and improve alertness for the following 4 to 6 hours. This is the version most of the research supports: brief, early, and intentional. The problematic version is the long, late nap. An hour and a half of sleep at 4 p.m. clears enough adenosine to significantly reduce your sleep pressure by bedtime. You get into bed later, can't fall asleep, and the night is lighter and less restorative. If you're actively working on improving your sleep quality, keeping naps short and early, or replacing them with NSDR, protects the homeostatic pressure you need for nighttime depth. If you're not struggling with sleep and simply want to optimize, a brief afternoon nap is a genuinely powerful tool for afternoon performance. The key is the alarm. 20 minutes, hard stop. Most people understand sleep as a passive recovery process, the body resting, the brain going quiet. The actual biology is almost the opposite. During the deepest stage of sleep, called slow-wave sleep or deep NREM sleep, your brain generates high-amplitude, low-frequency electrical waves that coordinate a remarkable process. Neurons shrink slightly, expanding the fluid-filled spaces between them. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through these channels, flushing out metabolic waste that has accumulated throughout the day. This includes proteins directly linked to Alzheimer's disease, amyloid beta and tau, which are cleared during deep sleep and accumulate with chronic sleep deprivation. This system is called the glymphatic system, and it is essentially your brain's overnight cleaning crew. It operates primarily during slow-wave sleep. It requires a cool, quiet, undisrupted sleep environment to function fully. And it is one of the strongest biological arguments for protecting sleep quality over the long term, not just for how you feel tomorrow, but for your brain's health over decades. The morning light, the consistent schedule, the cool room, the caffeine cutoff, the evening darkness, all of these converge on this one outcome: deeper, slow-wave sleep, more glymphatic clearance, a brain that wakes up genuinely cleaned and restored. This is what good sleep actually means at the cellular level. And this is what's being sacrificed, gradually and invisibly, by every night of disrupted or shallow sleep. One more piece of the biological picture worth understanding because it changes how you think about your entire day. Cortisol and melatonin are not just sleep and wake hormones. They are opposing forces in a finely timed daily rhythm that affects your mood, your metabolism, your immune function, and your cognitive performance. In a healthy, well-aligned system, cortisol peaks sharply in the morning, providing energy, focus, and motivation, and gradually declines through the afternoon and evening. Melatonin rises as cortisol falls, peaking in the middle of the night and fading before morning. They create a clean handoff twice a day. When the system is disrupted by inconsistent wake times, by bright light at night, by chronic stress, this handoff breaks down. Cortisol stays elevated into the evening when it should be low. Melatonin rises later or not strongly enough. The result is exactly that pattern: wired at night, groggy in the morning. Hard to switch on when you want to be on, hard to switch off when you want to be off. The morning light protocol addresses this directly. Getting bright light early amplifies the morning cortisol pulse and starts the melatonin timer on schedule. Evening darkness lets melatonin rise without suppression. Together, they restore the push-pull rhythm that makes both your days and your nights work the way they're supposed to. Your job isn't to force either hormone. It's to give your biology the environmental signals it needs to regulate them correctly on its own. Behavioral tools first, always. Light, timing, temperature, and sensitive scheduling are the foundation. But often those are in place, a few supplements have meaningful research support as adjuncts. Magnesium, specifically in the threonate or bisglycinate form at 200 to 400 milligrams taken 30 to 60 minutes before bed, supports relaxation by enhancing GABA activity, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter that quiets neural arousal. Deficiency in magnesium is common and directly linked to sleep disturbances and elevated anxiety. It's low risk and broadly supported. Apigenin, a compound derived from chamomile, typically at around 50 milligrams, has a mild sedative effect through GABA modulation. It doesn't knock you out. It gently reduces the neural activation that can make sleep onset harder. L-theanine, found naturally in green tea, typically dosed at 100 to 400 milligrams, promotes calm alertness during the day and eases the transition to sleep at night. It's particularly useful for people who feel a background hum of anxiety that won't settle when they try to sleep. These aren't sleep medications. They don't override your biology. They create slightly better conditions for the natural sleep machinery to operate, which is exactly how a good adjunct should work. What to avoid? Alcohol and late caffeine, for reasons already covered. Alcohol deserves particular mention because the sedation is real but deceptive. It suppresses the deep, slow-wave sleep and REM sleep your brain actually needs. You sleep more hours but restore less. The next morning's grogginess is not a coincidence. If you get into bed and you're not asleep within roughly 20 to 25 minutes, get out of bed. This sounds counterintuitive, but staying in bed while frustrated and awake trains your brain to associate the bed with wakefulness and anxiety. Over time, that association becomes self-reinforcing. The bed itself starts triggering alertness. This is one of the primary mechanisms by which occasional poor sleep becomes chronic insomnia. The alternative? Get up, go to a dimly lit space, do something quiet and low stimulation, reading a physical book, gentle stretching, or an NSDR practice. Don't look at bright screens. Don't start working. Return to bed only when you feel genuinely sleepy again. The same principle applies to waking in the middle of the night. If you're awake for more than 20 minutes and frustration is building, leave the bed. Do NSDR. Let the adenosine and the melatonin bring you back, rather than lying there willing yourself to sleep, which never works and always makes things worse. The beauty of this framework is that everything points in the same direction. The morning light builds the cortisol peak and sets the melatonin timer. The caffeine cutoff lets adenosine do its job. The consistent wake time keeps the whole system anchored. The evening darkness lets melatonin rise cleanly. The cool room enables the temperature drop that triggers deep sleep. The NSDR clears daytime adenosine and restores the nervous system when full sleep isn't available. The supplements support the final step of quieting arousal at bedtime. None of these habits are complicated, none of them cost anything significant, and none of them require perfect execution every single night. What they require is consistency. Small, repeated signals compounding across days and weeks until your biology recalibrates to a new baseline. Most people notice meaningful changes within 3 to 7 days of implementing the morning light and caffeine timing adjustments alone. Within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent, full implementation, the shift in sleep quality, daytime energy, mood, and cognitive clarity can be substantial. Start with the morning. Get outside within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. Hold your wake time steady. Push your caffeine to the morning hours. Dim the house after 8 p.m. 4 changes, all free, and directly addressing the biology that's been running your sleep and your alertness all along. Your brain is not broken. Your sleep is not randomly bad. The two systems that govern how rested and alert you feel are responding, exactly as they're designed to the signals your environment is giving them. Change the signals and the systems follow. That's not a theory, that's the biology. If this kind of content, practical, grounded in real science, designed to actually change how you feel, is what you're looking for, subscribe and stay around. There's a lot more coming.